Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really happy to introduce you today to our guest, Tiesha Green. Tiesha owns a business called Reality Redesign. She's a transformational coach and relationship strategist. That's a tongue twister, but you know what? I can relate because this is what Tiesha says. She says, I help smart, busy women change the reality of their lives by allowing them to design it on their own terms. And I can really relate to that because I am smart and I am busy and I need help. Tiesha, tell me a little bit more about who you help, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your formula and your book.
Oh, great. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and it's going to be amazing talking to you. So a little bit about who I help. I love working with women. I can work with anyone as a coach. I'm trained to work with anyone, but I love working with women because we have the unique, I'm going to call it issue of often being asked to choose between, do you want to be happy, or you want to be, you want to have a career, or you want to be in love, or you want to have children, or you have to decide. It's just like you can't possibly have it all. And I don't think that's fair, because I don't see any reason that you can't be in love and have a career and have a family. And, there's no reason that we can't do all of those things. And so a lot of times what happens is, our happiness is kind of stumped. We're like put in a bottle, and it's hard to break out of. And so that's what I try to do. I try to help women. I help women to really figure out how to get outside of that box and be exactly who it is that they want to be, and be good with it, not feel guilty, not feel like, something is suffering because they're happy, or, not sacrificing their happiness so that everyone else can be happy.
I really can relate to every single word of what you just said, because in my own life, I know that I ended up being a single mother. I had a 12-year-old daughter when I had two additional children 12 years later. So they're big span. I ended up being a single mom. I had a job. I went back to school. I juggled. I mean, sometimes it felt like I was just, one time, seriously, this is the truth. I counted. I needed to be 23 different people to do all the things I needed to do. And obviously I didn't have a split personality, but I did. I said, well, I need to be a mom. I need to be a worker. I need to be a homemaker. I need to be a nurse. I need to be all of these different people. And it was really, really difficult. And you've actually written a book called Stop the Struggle, The Woman's Ultimate Guide. And I love the catchphrase, which is the woman's ultimate guide to a life of happiness, success, and here's the big kicker, much less stress. That's the big one, because we're so stressed out. So tell me a little bit more about why you wrote the book and how you created this formula to help women break out of, like you said, our bottle. And when you said that, I saw a genie in the bottle, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I feel like that sometimes. It's like I'm trapped in this bottle, and my surroundings are nice enough, but I can't get out because I can't figure out how to transform myself into the pink stream of smoke to go out of the bottle. Get out. So, Tiesha, you're here to help.
Right. So that's exactly it, Tammy. Like that was my problem as well. It's just like life is good. Like I have, I have a good job, I have a relationship, I have a family, everything is good. And so you kind of feel guilty for wanting more because it's good. Like your life is good, but it's just not great. It's not extraordinary. Like and you want it to be. You don't want to be normal. You don't want to be like everybody else. You want to be something special. You want to make a difference. That's who we are. That's like how we're designed. And so, we're stuck. And so I wrote the book because I was that woman. Like I just felt like somebody had really put me inside the box and put a lid on it and taped it shut and put stamps on it and was planning to mail me. So, like I just felt so trapped. And I was sitting and I was having a conversation with one of my male friends, and we were just talking about just kind of like everyday living. And we were actually having a conversation about being adults, like, right, being grown up and who signed up for this. Like, you go to work, you pay bills, and everything was just kind of like da. And that's kind of how it felt. But as I listen to this conversation, it's just like, the stuff that he's saying is just kind of like not enough and compared to what I have to, what I felt like I had to go through. Like you said, like having to be 23 people, like maybe he had to be 8 and I had to be 23, and I'm like, well, what's fair? Like, how is that right? And so I thought about it. I mean, when I tell you, like, I went through this whole thing, Tammy, I studied every major religion. I read hundreds of books. I attended dozens of seminars. Like I needed to know like what it was that I needed to do to live that life that I wanted to live. And so how I came out on the other side was with this formula. And I called it the strategic success formula, which is kind of a tongue twister too. But I called it that because it is designed to get you to, because success, I think there are a lot of words that aren't properly defined or are misunderstood in their definitions. And I think success is one of them. Like we get so caught up in like society's idea of success, so much money, the White House and pick whatever those things are, that whatever our stories are about what success is, that we don't really realize when we get to that point where we're actually successful, and you're really at that point where you're like, oh, this is good. Because for me, it was really like a light bulb moment when I finally got to the point where it was like, wow, this is great. I didn't even realize I was there. Like it was just like, oh gosh, this is like, like you go through those periods where maybe you hate your job and it's just kind of like, oh my God, I got to go here again. And then one day it's just like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. Or, you're looking at it differently. Now maybe it's like a stepping stone or whatever those things are. And so the formula is designed to help you really pinpoint what it is exactly what you want, why it is that you don't already have it, because that's important in figuring out the best way to get to it, right? So why don't you have it? And then go about putting a plan into action, and then getting yourself into action, getting busy around getting to what you want. And so I call it the happy place, even though I kind of don't like that term because it kind of makes it seem like, happiness is another one of those words that I really think is misunderstood. But, I don't like the idea of just thinking like one thing happens and then all of a sudden you're happy, because that's not how it is. But, just really getting to the place where you love your life. And that's what the book is about. That's what the formula really helps you like pinpoint and narrow down.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the words, like you said, success, happiness, what do those words mean to us? Because all of us probably have this image of what success is supposed to be based on whatever our childhoods or what people have told us success, or especially what we've seen on television. Our view of life is so distorted by what we see on television, because we see the perfect blended family. We see the perfect lives of people, even when they're supposed to not be perfect, they're still sometimes better than what we're living, or we don't know how to just stop and be thankful for what we have. And, the fact that, today, if you have a job and you had a job, that's better than some people. And that concept of having gratitude for what you have and everything. So, when you have this strategic formula, and again, you also said another magic word, which was about, I believe it was something about asking and answering questions. What are some of the key questions that you have to ask yourself and really be honest about? Because sometimes I catch myself not being 100% honest with me
Right.
about what I think or what I feel or why don't I think I'm successful? To other people, they may think, wow, she's really, she has a nice house, blah, blah, blah. She has this, that, and the other thing. But in my mind, I'm still going forward, trying to find, whatever that is, because
Right.
I'm trying to fulfill my purpose and be a messenger of good. And at the same time, I'm trying to make enough money to support my family. And, there's always those things, the thoughts that go through our heads about, well, is this still being a good person if I make money doing this? That's a common issue for women. It's because we're so taught from, for example, when I was little, I always heard a good girl is seen and not heard. Well, what does that tell you? That tells you that you're not supposed to have a voice. So I grew up worrying about talking, and then also not only about talking, but being very afraid of how I sounded, what I said, and again, and my big issue was who would ever listen to me. And that was an eye-opener when I finally learned that a lot of people are very interested in what I have to say, because I have a life, and just like what you're saying is you wrote this book, Stop the Struggle, because you studied all of the different religions, you studied empowerment, you studied all of these different things, and you took all that knowledge and you said, gee, I can help myself. And then you figured out, gee, if I can help myself, I can also help other people. So that's a long way for me to get to. Give me a couple examples of questions that we should be asking and answering honestly, so that we can get out of this struggle.
Okay, great. One of the biggest exercises that I like to do in groups, and it's always so interesting to watch. I love to see when a light bulb comes on. That moment when you finally realize, like, oh, wow. So I do this exercise. It's called the perfect day. So basically what you do is you want to write out or draw, really journal on what your perfect average day looks like. So it's not like a bucket list kind of day where you just go do all the things that you ever wanted to do, but like, what does that day look like that you really wouldn't mind living day in and day out, like for the most part every day, because the days are going to pass anyway. So what you really want to do is try to live those days that you really enjoy. So what would you do? What would you do when you get up in the morning? What would make you excited to get out of bed and know that you're going to get done that day, or, have to, what is a part of your daily routine? So really figuring out what that perfect average day is, because what I find is that so many people, women especially, and especially if you have children, oh my goodness, because that's another big one for women. That the guilt is just kind of poured on when you have children. But with that perfect day, just figuring out like what that looks like. How does your time with your children look? What kinds of things are you doing? I mean, are you, staring at the computer while they're watching the TV, which is kind of a lot of times how it ends up being, but what would you prefer that to look like? And as you figure out that perfect average day, you know, then you start to realize, wow, I am really kind of postponing happiness. You know, so many people are waiting till they retire, till they get married, till they get divorced, you know, till they're in a relationship, till they have more money. There's so many things that we are waiting for before we can be happy. So as you start to look at, you know, and doing that exercise, and I honestly, I haven't seen one woman go through that exercise who at the end of it is not like, something's got to change. Like I have to do something different. And so, cause that gets you asking those questions. Another thing that is also in the book that I think is really, really important, and you touched on this too, but it is about brutal honesty. So there's a section in the book where I talk about being brutally honest with yourself. And you know, like I tell my children as they were growing up, I would tell them, like, you know, if you need to, you lie to everybody else. You know, if there's something that you did, or you know, you don't want somebody to know that you want to do, if you need to lie to people to get through your day, like, if you must, you know, tell a fib, like, you know, oh no, I don't want to do that. Even if you know, no, you know, you really want to do it. Even if it's something as simple as getting on an amusement park ride, and people are like, oh, that's for sissies. Yeah, I don't want to ride that, you know, but you, if you need to lie to everybody else, do that, but never lie to yourself. Always make a promise to yourself to always tell yourself the truth, so that, you know, because we want to. It's like human nature that you want to soften the blow. You don't want to feel like, oh man, I want that and I don't have it, and you know, I need to pretend like I'm okay with that. No, be angry. I mean, you know, say, I really want that, because that opens the door. That creates the space for you to figure out how to go and get it. You know, and so when you're not telling yourself the truth, then you're actually keeping yourself stuck. You're keeping yourself in that bottle because you won't own up to those things that you really want to do. And so, you know, that to me is a really, really big part of living the life that you really want to live, of having those things that you really want to have, is you have to stop lying to yourself, you know? So, I mean, you know, like I said, if you have to not be honest with everybody else, I mean, you know, this is not like big lies, like, you know, like but you don't want to feel it. Sometimes it's things that you don't want other people to know. Some things are not other people's business. So right. You know, if you want to keep that to yourself, feel free to keep things to yourself, but with yourself, always tell the truth. And it's just one of those things that come with practice, because now, honestly, I can't lie to myself. Like, you know, if I even think about getting ready to tell myself a lie, like, it's almost like a conversation going on in my head, like, you're lying. So it really comes with practice, but it is so important in really, you know, getting out of the trap, because, you know, we're stuck in this whole superwoman syndrome, and you know, we got to be super mom and super wife, and you know, we just, you know, I think it's so ironic that Superman is a hero. You know, he flies around, he's seeing through things, he's, you know, stopping the crime and making good stuff happen, but Superwoman is a mess. Like, she is running all over the place, her head cut off, you know, she has everything to do. She has to split herself in 5 different directions. You know, she has to get the kids where they have to go. She has to, you know, and because if the kids don't get picked up, most of the time, who are people looking at? They're looking at the mom like, oh my gosh, she left her kids, she forgot. You know, no matter who was supposed to get them, the babysitter, the no matter who it was, it's always the mom's fault. And that's just something that we struggle with as women, which is why I really, really focus on working with women, because we have so many things that just kind of fall back on us. We didn't sign up for it. We didn't ask for it. We, you know, we don't even want it most days, but it becomes our issue just by virtue of being a woman. So, you know, when you talk about like asking the right questions, that's what it comes down to. You really got to start being honest with yourself about what it is that you want, so that you can say, okay, I really want this. I mean, it could be a car. I like my car, but I really, really want this car. I like my job, but I always wanted to do this. You know, I want to make more impact. I feel like on my job, you know, I'm not making a difference. Whatever that thing is, you have to be honest about it so that you can figure out a way to get to that place that you want to be. So I think those are some of the biggest things, when you start looking at what you really want and being honest about what you really want, then you start to automatically ask the questions about how to make it happen.
Right. Because if you think like what you're saying is like, for example, me, I remember as a single mom, okay, so I worked an hour and a half from where the kids were in daycare. And I always had to figure out how in the world am I going to get from point A to point B in time before the daycare closed so that I wouldn't get charged the late fee for coming home. So I remember, I would take a shorter lunch. I would do all these different things just so that I could make sure that I would be where I needed to be. And that was extremely stressful. And this thing about honesty with ourselves, it's really interesting. Because how often is it that we're cranky, we're irritable, we're feeling put upon? And this actually, the reason I'm thinking about this, it just happened to me. My son was mad at me because I didn't go and buy Red Bull. Okay. So think about this. I do not drink Red Bull, so it's not like on my radar where I'm thinking about buying Red Bull. But he said to me, you didn't get my Red Bull and it ruined my day because I didn't have my Red Bull. And it made me angry because I'm going, why are you making it my responsibility? This kid is 25 years old, by the way. And I'm thinking, it's not my job to go get you your Red Bull because you could just stop at the local convenience store and buy one. It isn't like, you don't have to do that. But at the same time, I felt bad, like, oh, I let this person down. And then later, after I bought the Red Bull and put it in the refrigerator, I was angry. I was angry because I shouldn't have to be responsible for something so petty and little for another adult, when they should go buy their own Red Bull. Because I have enough stuff going on, just like what you said, we're juggling all of these things. We're trying to take care of our families. We're trying to work. We're just trying to be Superwoman. And of course, we all know that, pretty soon Superwoman can't fly because, her wings are broken,
right?
and her cape is all in a tatter,
right?
Because we get burned out, we get worn out. And I was actually reading in your book about you were using the movie about the bucket list with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson, and of course most of us have seen that movie, and obviously they're two old guys and they become friends in the hospital because both of them have terminal illnesses, and they decide to go on, one grand adventure together. And actually they leave behind the wife of one. And it was kind of a weird thing, but at the same time, you learned from watching these two men do these fabulous things because, of course, they had the money, so money was no object. And the reality of life for most of us is money is an object, and it's often something where we have issues that block us from moving forward. Do you talk about any of these money issues in Stop the Struggle?
In Stop the Struggle, I don't really, I just kind of gloss over the money issue. Okay. I talk about how what needs to happen a lot of times is we may need to get like a side hustle, like something that we do. Like for me, when my kids were growing up, I had this rule. I'm going to call it a rule. Wherever I worked at, I needed to be off work at 3:00 so that I could get to my kids and be able to pick them because that was my responsibility, right? So I got to be able to pick them up and get them to where they got to go so that they can be kids, right? And so that was one of my rules. And so what I ended up doing was I started an after school program, and it in my head, even though I had a full-time job, it made perfect sense because then I could be where my kids were. I could make a little extra money, and it made sense to me, and it was what I needed to do at the time. But even if it's something like I don't know, different people do different things. A lot of women especially get into like multi-level marketing businesses, like network marketing, like Avon or um the different health one.
Yeah,
There's
Miriam,
so many different ones.
Essential. Yeah, there are a lot of direct
Oil,
marketing
yes,
programs
yes.
out
And
there.
so a lot of women do that, especially if they're like stay-at-home moms or they work part-time or something like that, because they need to make extra income, or that a lot of times, because money is, like you said, money is often an issue. But a lot of times, if you really look at it, an extra $300 a month could make the difference in how much more joy you experience, how much more things you're able to do with your kids or for yourself. It's not even always like a large amount of money, which is what a lot of people think. It's always like you got to have this big, huge amount of money. It's not that. It's usually a couple $100s that make the difference
Right.
in your comfort level, your stress level. Because for most people, I just looked at the research for that. For most people, a $400 emergency would just really wipe them out. And I think the statistics now are like something like 73% of people live paycheck to paycheck, no matter how much money they make. So I'm actually doing Stop the Struggle is actually a series of books. So I'm currently finishing up Stop the Struggle in relationships or in love, because relationships are such a big part of who we are. Not only just intimate relationships, but relationships in general. Family relationships, work relationships, business relationships, and then also I'm doing Stop the Struggle with money, because because money is such an integral part of who we are and what we get to do. And money is, people say money can't buy happiness, and I totally agree. But money buys opportunity. Money creates option. It opens the door for less stress, right? Because that's not to say people with money don't have problems, because for some reason people really believe that, and that's just not true. But it does create opportunity, which is why having money is important. You would like to not have to worry about if your car needs an emergency repair, or if your
Right.
refrigerator conks out one day or something like that. You don't want to have to stress about that every day. Where is that extra $20 coming from? Or because that's a real struggle for a lot of people. And so I am focusing a whole book on the money thing. And I know even you were mentioning about money, women and money blocks and things like that, because it's such a huge part of our development, of our growth. Is just, one, getting better with money, and then two, figuring out a way to get past those blocks that we have, and then three, figuring out a way to have more money. And so that's where I am in the money process, because I in the book I mentioned how there's so many things that we want to do, so many, like, even if you, like you said, with the bucket list, money wasn't an issue. There's so many things that we want to do, that if we could just figure out a way um to get a few more dollars in our pocket. I talk about how our education is really not designed to teach us to be adults. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I can only speak for myself. But the honest to goodness truth, and I had a great education. I went to private school all the way through to college, and I had a great education. I took my first class on finances when I was 38. Okay, that is a true story. Okay, the first class that I had that had anything to do with money, like managing money, just kind of having money, not just like we had this little budget thing when I was in 7th grade, but it was like, you know, most teachers, I used to be a teacher too. Most teachers don't really know anything about having money because most teachers don't have any money.
Right.
So, there was this thing, like I said, we did in 7th grade that was like 3 days long or whatever. But I had my first like real finance class when I was 38 years old. And so that's when I started to learn about money. Like until that point, it was just like what you knew, what you saw. You go to work and you make a certain amount of money and you get paid, and then you pay the bills, and then you take, you save a little bit, and then you take what's left and you buy grocery, and maybe you get to go to a movie or whatever those things are. But we don't know a lot about money, and so there's no real world education around money to prepare us to be, to head a family or to manage a family as an adult. And so that's a lot of what will be in the Stop the Struggle with Money book.
Well, that'll be really cool. So you have Stop the Struggle, the first book, and then you'll have Stop the Struggle with Relationships, and then Stop the Struggle with Money. And so everyone, what a fabulous series. There's a quote by Oprah, and she's talking about retraining the brain so that you can create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. And that was a quote from Oprah, and that is absolutely the truth. And I think one of the really positive things about the Stop the Struggle book, book number 1, The Ultimate Guide to a Life of Happiness, Success, and Much Less Stress. What is really important about that is that you do uncover some secrets about how to get out of that genie in the bottle, unleash the genie in the bottle, and to start thinking in a more positive, expansive way. And I think that's really, really important. So if somebody wants to find out more information about you and your books, where can they go?
Thank you for asking. I am on Facebook, my Reality Redesign page. You can actually find me on all social media if you search Reality Redesign. But on my Facebook page, there's a lot of information there about, I really focus on mindset and retraining your brain, and I call it getting your mind on your side, like making it your friend, because, mental programming is so important. Like how we were brought up just makes us such a big difference in who we are today, that a lot of the stuff that we learned may not be relevant anymore, or it might not have been right to start with, so a lot of that stuff is holding us back. And so, a lot of what I do in there, and especially on the Reality Redesign page, is show you new ways to start thinking that'll make, I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer that said, you change your thoughts, you change your life. And that's absolutely the case. So you can find me on Facebook under Reality Redesigned, and on LinkedIn, you can find me at Tiesha Green. So Tiesha Green, like the color. And also, finally, you can find the book, Stop the Struggle, on Amazon. If you go to my bit.ly link, it's bit.ly/Stop the Struggle book. So bit.ly/Stop the Struggle book, and you can find the book. And the book on Amazon is only $2.99. And I did that for a purpose, because I've been talking this whole time about women, and I really focus on the everyday woman, because like I said, I was her, I am her, and so I wanted to make it affordable. I wanted to make it, people like, oh, but there's so much information in there, and the value. I get it, but I want anybody who wants this information, who wants to create real change in their life, who wants to, design a life on their own terms, and not, because at the end of the day, I'll tell anybody, normal is not normal. I gave a couple of statistics earlier, but it is just not, it's just, a lot of the things that we think are normal are not normal. They're common. A lot of people do them, which is why people think they're normal. But these things aren't natural. Like a lot of the stuff that we do there are very few things that are natural. That are kind of mandatory in nature. Stuff like gravity. But for the most part, stuff becomes normal because everybody does it. Well, I don't want to be like everybody else, and you shouldn't either. You should want to find out how, because you really can be happy. You really can have it all. You really can, be comfortable and have money to do the things you want to do and laugh all the time and have a great relationship with a wonderful partner who really supports you and loves you and cares about you. And all of those things are absolutely possible. And you can have them all at the same time, right? Which is so hard for people to understand, but it is so true. And so the book really shows you how you can do that and how to have it all. And on my Facebook page, you'll also find the link to my Love Your Life challenge. And so I do a 7-day Love Your Life challenge. And it runs, I think, every 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, every 3 months, every 4 months. But it's a 7-day challenge that is really designed to really start you on the process to retraining your brain. All for happiness, for love, for money, for peace, for inner peace, because nothing tops inner peace. And so that's where I am. If you're looking for me, Facebook, Reality Redesign, and on LinkedIn, you can find me by my name, Tiesha Green.
Reality Redesign. I'm going right now so that I can check it out and like the page and find out more about you.
Thank you.
There. Oh yeah, beautiful. So wow, what a lot of really eye-opening and inspiring, I think, is the words that come to my mind, because if we can reset our mindset, and start seeing how big and wonderful and all the possibilities. And I think what you said that was really intriguing to me is you said you can have it all. You don't have to make a sacrifice. Well, if I'm going to have a business, then I can't be in love, or I can't have a partner, or I can't be a good mother, because the reality is you have to be able to do those things at the same time, because you can't, for example, if you're going to have children, there really is only a window there when you can actually have children unless you adopt, you know. And then just creating your own business. And so many people don't realize all the opportunities that are out there to create your own reality, your own business. You don't have to always work for someone else, because people think there's a security in working for someone else. And we've really found out, well, no, there is really no security in working for someone else, because they could say, see ya, one of my nieces says, see you, wouldn't want to be ya. And that was the first time I ever heard that. And I was so taken aback. And then I thought about it. I said, yeah, well, right at this moment, I wish I wasn't me either, but I am. So I have to deal with it. So again, Tiesha, thank you so much for all of this really good information. Everybody, go find the book. I will put the bit.ly link into the show notes. And it is Reality Redesign on Facebook. And if you go there, you see a really nice blue image, and it says 7-day Mindset Reset Challenge. And it looks like a blueprint. So I'm really excited about that. So again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Tammy. It's been great talking to you, and it's just been great. I tell people all the time, I've been a teacher since I was 3 years old, just teaching my teddy bears how to read, and just it's just always been such a huge part of who I am. But I love, like I said, I studied for years just trying to fix me. And I just feel like if I can cut the process for you, if I could just kind of narrow that path for you so that you don't have to waste so many years and so much money, good grief, trying to figure it out, trying to get to that point where you can finally feel like thank God I'm alive. Like, I just wake up in the morning. It's just like, I love my life. Like, what is today going to be about? It's just such an amazing, amazing feeling. And I just want that for everyone.
That's fabulous.
So thank you again so much for having me on.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.